What is up, everybody? So I'm coming to you this morning with the recap of the Lomachenko versus Lopez Undisputed Lightweight Title Fight. I'm going to do a big kind of breakdown of what happened, big recap of my opinions and just everything that happened in general surrounding the whole fight. I want to talk about the undercard real quick though. Just kind of recap the whole weekend. Very good undercard. You had Edgar Berlanga, 15-0, 15 knockouts, super middleweight. He did it again, knocked some dude out, some nobody out in, 79 seconds, and he remains undefeated and, showing off that big-time power. First round knockout, another one. So, impressive record and story right here, I really am impressed with him, but I want to see him step up the competition now. Hopefully he pushes forward, takes on maybe, a former champion that would be considered maybe a stepping stone fighter next. That's what I'm hoping for. Somebody along those lines. But, we'll see. We just got to see what happens. But impressive performance by Berlanga. I can't wait to see him back again. I'm sure he'll be back probably before the end of the year on a big card. Now let's, the co-feature saw undefeated, rising star Arnold Barboza Jr. He took his next big step, trying to show off if he's ready for the big time. He took on former world title challenger Alex Saucedo, who was trying to bounce back into the mix. He lost to Maurice Hooker back in November of 2018, so it's been a couple years since he's kind of been on this level, and taking on Barboza was a good test. I mean, Barboza early on decided to go toe-to-toe with Saucedo, and he got caught a couple times. He got hit with some good shots, and the first few rounds were somewhat close, but Barboza just, I was impressed with the kind of shape he was in. That he was in line and in good shape to handle a long fight, a full 10 rounds of hard 10 rounds. And pretty much sixth round on, he just took over the fight, just completely outboxed, what's his name? Saucedo, just beat him to the punch. I mean, it wasn't easy though. Saucedo kept bringing it, and it was a good performance, on both ends. But solid ass performance out of Arnold Barboza. Saucedo, nothing to put his head down about. That dude, in my opinion, still considered to be somewhat of a contender. And if some guys are gonna automatically assume the position for Saucedo of stepping stone, that might be a mistake. I think he's a little bit better than a stepping stone fighter. I just think Barboza might have some kind of special skill that's going to put him towards the top of the division. I think this performance might be top 10 worthy. I'm going to go back, take a look at his resume, and compare it to some of the other guys, that are further down in the top 10, and see if Barboza can land himself a spot in the top 10 at 140. But impressive performance. I really enjoyed it. When all the titles go vacant, once an undisputed champion is crowned next year, Barboza might be one of the guys fighting for a vacant belt, so we'll see what happens. Now let's jump into the main event. Vasily Lomachenko versus Teofimo Lopez for the Undisputed Lightweight title. Now, first off, I want to discuss a few things. I'm going to talk about the fight itself, the result. I want to talk about Teofimo Lopez. I want to talk about Vasily Lomachenko, what they did and didn't do, and why things went the way they went. Also want to talk about the scoring, and then I'm going to talk about the undisputed clarification on this, because I know there's some shit being talked about that. And then also I want to talk about a possible rematch. So let's take a look at the result. The result of the fight was a unanimous decision for Teofimo Lopez. Nice, very, very good performance out of him. He did what he had to do and took a decision. Now, I have no problem with this decision. I don't. Personally, I had the fight a draw. I thought it was 6-6. But I fully agree with Andre Ward's scorecard. Me and him had an identical scorecard of 6-6. And then I also felt that that Max Kellerman was dead on the money when I watched First Take yesterday. And, he was dead on the money in terms of the rounds that were scored for Lopez and Lomachenko. So let's jump into, that first. Let's jump into the scoring. Julie Lederman needs to be bucked down. She's not going to go away as a judge, but she needs to be bucked down in terms of they need to stop giving her such high-profile fights. This is like the second or third time she's turned in just a fucking terrible scorecard. 119 to 109. That is 11 rounds to 1. How the fuck did Teofimo Lopez win 11 rounds on anybody's scorecard? Vasily Lomachenko absolutely won, without question, rounds 8 through 11. There's no doubt about that. He dominated those rounds. He hurt Teofimo. He had Teofimo tired. He was landing shot after shot and snapping Teofimo's head back. Doesn't mean Teofimo didn't do anything. He did. Lopez was doing stuff, but Lomachenko clearly won those 4 rounds. So that's at least a 116 to 112 scorecard, 8 rounds to 4, at least. How the fuck did Lederman give 3 of those rounds to Lopez? It's just beyond me. She is terrible. I loved her dad. Her dad, growing up on HBO, Harold Lederman was the man. He was the guy keeping score. He knew his shit. I used to love when he used to go, Jim, after he got done. I love that guy. Love him. And I learned how to score fights based on Harold Lederman. I really, really dig that guy. But his daughter, and she has experience. She's done a lot of fights. She's been around a while. But these high-profile fights, she's got to go out of them. I'm sorry, she's done. Then we had a 9 rounds to 3 scorecard. Bullshit. There's no way Teofimo Lopez won 9 of those 12 rounds. Just no. At the very most, he won 8 rounds. These rounds were very clear, guys. Very clear. There was 2 rounds that weren't clear that could have went either way of the 12. The rest of them were clear. Teofimo Lopez absolutely won the first round. No question, Lomachenko did hardly anything. Now, he also won rounds 3 through 6. No question, again, Lomachenko did not do that much in those rounds. So, Lopez won basically just by doing more and boxing and just landing a few more shots. Lomachenko did hardly anything in those rounds too. So chalk it up that's 5 rounds for Lopez. Clear rounds right there. Then rounds 8 through 11 were absolutely Lomachenko rounds. No questions asked. He won every one of those fucking rounds. So that's 5 to 4 now. Then the 12th round. Lopez turned it on and absolutely won the 12th. Hurt Lomachenko. Very good round for Lopez. He clearly won the 12th and final round. So that is 6 to 4 right there. Now, the other 2 rounds now, those are debatable. I gave them to Lomachenko. Rounds 2 and round 7. I gave them to Lomachenko. I felt like he was the better fighter in those rounds in terms of he landed the better shots. The harder shots, the more eye-opening shots. Now, Lopez, you can argue, did a little bit more overall in terms of landing shots, but I didn't feel like his shots compared to Loma's, who landed a little less, but I thought his shots were the more effective blows in the round. That's why I gave him rounds 2 and 7. But I don't mind anybody scoring those 2 rounds for Lopez. So at the end of the day, I had it 6 to 6 because I gave both those rounds to Loma. But it could have been 7-5 for Lopez, and it could have been 8-4 for Lopez. I am not arguing at all that Lomachenko won this fight. I don't think he did. I think the very best Lomachenko could have gotten was a draw, and that's it. So I know I picked Lomachenko. Lomachenko is one of my favorite fighters. He is one of my top 2. Him and Canelo are my 2 favorite fighters. But I have no problem with Lopez winning this fight. It's the scoring that I have a problem with. Now, I'm not even saying it was absolutely a draw. I'm not. When fights are close, it really could go either way, and we'll get into that. But this is why I'm in full support of of scoring on a TV monitor going forward for the judges. I think the judges should be sequestered into their own little box or room, maybe one of the boxes upstairs with a TV monitor, and that's it. No, they cannot hear the announcers, nothing. Put a TV monitor, let them score so they can see all sides of the ring in the whole fight. A lot of times the fighters' backs are facing a judge. They're not seeing the punches all the way. Some of these judges are tripping. They don't know how to score either. So they need to do something different, because this is too many times of these bad ass decisions being turned in, are bad scorecards to make you wonder, what the fuck were these guys watching? Anything can happen in boxing, in terms of the scores. You don't ever know for sure. I mean, and I've been calling for this probably since Pacquiao got robbed against Bradley the first time. In my opinion, still the worst fucking decision of all time. No questions asked. How anybody saw Bradley winning 7 rounds in that fight is fucking beyond me. And I'm sorry, Pacquiao won 10, 11 rounds in that fight easily too. They were clear. And I was going for Bradley. So you cannot say that I was that's a homer call. No, I was a Bradley fan. I was excited about that first fight. I thought Bradley had somewhat of a chance against Pacquiao, and he got his ass whipped, and they still gave it to him. So, I don't call fights. I don't care if I'm a fan of the guy. I wanted Lomachenko to win this fight. I did. But, he didn't. The very best, it was a draw. So that's where I'm at with that. Okay, let's look at the fighters now and what they did. Let's start with the newly crowned undisputed champion, Teofimo Lopez. Gotta hand it to that guy. Gotta hand it to him. He fought a very smart fight. Lomachenko's a dangerous fighter. He's very talented. He's very good. And I think he knows he made mistakes in this fight. But he basically, in my opinion, Teofimo Lopez just took advantage of what Lomachenko was trying to do. Lomachenko, people are saying he didn't throw punches. He was scared of Teo's power. I'm not denying that. Maybe he was respecting him a little too much. I'm not denying that. But what I think Loma was doing was trying to get Teo to chase him and fall into his traps. I liken this fight to, the first half of the fight to the way Hopkins tried to fight Kovalev after Kovalev hurt him in the first round. Hopkins was 49 years old. They went to unify belts. Kovalev put him down in the first round, and then Hopkins just stayed back and was trying to get Kovalev trying to draw Kovalev into his traps so he could fight him the way Hopkins fights people. On the inside, kind of dirty, landing those punches that Hopkins knows, the slick in and out movement. I think Lomachenko was going for something along those lines, and Teo just didn't fall for it. Teo said, okay, you're not going to throw punches, you're going to stay away, you're going to slip a move, I'm going to cut the ring off, and I'm going to land a jab, and I'm going to throw punches to the body. And that worked. I mean, it worked. He was winning the fight clearly. After 6 rounds, I had him up 5-1. I had him up 5-2 before Loma took over in the 8th round, So I felt he did really well, in terms of that. I don't think it was an overwhelming, dominant performance, but you know what? Nobody expected him to even be in this fight. I know I didn't. I didn't think the fight was going to be close at all. So that was impressive, not falling for Lomachenko's traps. And then to weather the storm, because he really got beat on from 8 to 11. From rounds 8 to 11, Lomachenko was got into his chest, got close, cut that length and the power down by getting in close, and just was landing shot after shot after shot on Teo. And Teo really didn't have an answer. He was throwing punches, he was landing punches here or there, and he was slipping, but it was tough. He was getting hit with some good shots. But in the 11th round, he landed a couple. And then in the 12th round, man, the way he came out against his father's orders, also his father told him, you got this fight won. He came out and fucking went for it. And great performance in the 12th round. That's one of the best performances in the 12th round I've ever seen. Whether you think the fight was a draw or he won or not, this dude went out and fought the 12th round like a fucking champion. And I give Teofimo Lopez props for that. Big, big props. That showed me the character that this guy has and the passion and the heart that he has to try to win. I really, really, truly feel that way. And it was a good performance. It really was. So congratulations to Teofimo Lopez, the new undisputed lightweight champion of the world. Now, Vasily Lomachenko, what did he do in this fight? You know, Loma, I think, needs to learn from this very, very hard. This was a hard one to take for him. I get that. But Loma made the mistake of, yes, showing too much respect, trying to get him to fall into traps. But Loma, I think, could have dominated this fight. I think it was there for him. If he would have been more aggressive early on, I think he would have done what I thought he was going to do. I think he would have wore Teofimo down and stopped him in the late rounds. Because you know what? He had Teo tired in the 10th and the 11th round. He had him tired. He was getting hit with some shots. Teo held on a couple times because he was getting hurt in there. And Loma was landing hard shots. You have to take a risk. You have to take a risk to win a fight sometimes. Sometimes you got to take a risk to be great. Dare to be great. And this was Loma's biggest fight of his career, and he blew it. In my opinion, he blew it. I think Loma beat himself more than Teofimo Lopez beat him. I think Loma not throwing punches that first half of the fight, you can argue that Teo won the first 7 rounds of that fight. He absolutely could say that. He won at least 5 of them for sure. The other 2 rounds are right there. So, I'm sorry, Lomachenko gave the fight away by not throwing punches, by showing too much respect. You got to take risks. I know he's a small guy in this weight class, but I think the way he fought 8-11, if he would have fought even half that way the first 4 rounds, just to learn what Teo was doing, to get him figured out, I think he wins this fight. And I think he could have stopped him. Because Lomachenko has this switch that he turns on, especially when he gets pissed. He did that in round 7. He started to turn it on, and then 8-11 he took over, where he doesn't, really worry about it. He gets in your chest, and he just starts throwing punches from all angles and landing them hard at will, clean shots, and he hurts people that way. He wears people down. Yeah, some of you guys go, oh, well, Campbell was a decision, Pedraza was a decision. That's fine. Those are fucking good fighters, though. He was coming back from a shoulder surgery against Pedraza. He took, the first half of that fight and just kind of picked and poked trying to get his shoulder right. Then he took over and shut it down. Campbell, first 4 rounds, same thing. Left Campbell in the fight, and then he got inside Campbell's chest and took over. And Campbell's a former Olympic gold medalist. So, that's why I get pissed at people knocking Lomachenko. Lomachenko's very talented. He's very good. And he can be a Hall of Fame fighter. You really can if he's not already. But the guy needs to get his props. And I think he beat himself more than Teofimo Lopez beat him. Teofimo was smart, and he fought the right fight. He did. He didn't fall for the traps. That was a smart move. So yes, but Lomachenko should have been more aggressive, because once he got aggressive, he took over that fight. And he's got a good chin, and he doesn't get hit cleanly multiple times in a row. I think he should have taken the risk, and he should have went for it. He didn't. He lost because of it. Plain and simple. So now I want to look at the undisputed distinction real quick. So Devin Haney is the actual WBC champion, but pretty much, because they brought this in during the week of the fight, the WBC franchise belt. Lomachenko legitimately won the WBC title. That's the green belt. He won that last year when he beat Luke Campbell. It was vacant. Campbell was the number 1 contender. Lomachenko, who was already the WBA, WBO champion, asked to fight for that belt. The WBC said yes. They fought. Lomachenko won clearly. Then they named him franchise champion, so he didn't have to fight his interim and paper champion, Devin Haney. I'm not saying Devin Haney isn't talented and isn't good enough to be a champion, but he hasn't beaten anybody to deserve that distinction. He hasn't beaten anybody at all. This guy is a paper champion or an email champion, whatever they want to call him now. That's what he is, and that's what I'm going to call him. And the WBC, I like that they did this, that they said, okay, this is really for the WBC belt. He's really the WBC champion, is Lomachenko coming in. That way it was for the true undisputed title. But they need to make it clear going forward. Hey, that's what the WBA did anyways. The WBA has their super champions that don't have to fight the mandatories. They just have to fight, big fights. and they have their regular champions. They have to fight the mandatories. You know, the WBC doesn't have to let it get all out of hand to do the same thing. Just make the distinction clear. You know, that, hey, this is really the champion. That guy's the regular WBC champion or whatever the fuck you want to call him. And that's that. But that's it on that distinction. It was for the undisputed title. Don't get it twisted. Devin Haney, not saying he's not good, but he's a paper champion. And he continues to prove that by fighting fucking Yuriorkis Gamboa, which is a joke of a fight. You know, he's not fighting anybody good. He's continuing to not fight anybody good, but he's calling out the big names. So you know what? Until you fight somebody, bro, shut your mouth or just don't even worry about the distinctions. You are not the real WBC champion, plain and simple. And now the last thing, should there be a rematch of this fight? Absolutely. I think Teofimo Lopez owes this to Lomachenko. Lomachenko deserves it. It's a big money fight. Lopez, if you really feel like you won, you're the bigger fighter, you're the younger fighter, fight him again and make sure. Because if Lopez decides to stay at 135, there's not a bigger opponent for him than Lomachenko. Just not. Name recognition, all of it combined, he doesn't have a bigger name that he can fight that can get made. Unless Gervonta Davis is impressive against Leo Santa Cruz, wins, and him and Gervonta want to get it on, two young fighters, undefeated, going at it, I don't have a problem with that. But Teofimo Lopez needs to, I think he owes a rematch to Lomachenko. The fight was close, should have been scored close. It was a bad scoring, and I don't want to hear this sore loser shit. Lomachenko can argue that the fight was close enough to be scored a draw. So in his eyes, if he wants to say it's close enough to he should have won, okay. You know, and Lomachenko gave Lopez his crack, and now Lopez needs to show that respect and give it back to Lomachenko, even if it's not for all 4 belts, which I doubt it would be, because some of these guys have mandatories due. I mean, some of these titles have mandatories. So, you know, that's my opinion. There should be a rematch, and I hope there is. So, 22 minutes later and a half, I apologize for the length, but a lot to get into. It was a big recap. It was a big time fight, and I hope you guys watched this, all of it, and enjoyed it. That's my opinion. Great action. New undisputed champion, Teofimo Lopez. Vasily Lomachenko, you are still a man. You have nothing to hang your head about. Hope you guys liked it. True Boxing, you've been hit with the truth.